Welcome to today's episode of Trans-Pacific Dialogue, where we unpack the influence of Donald Trump's presidency and Trumpism on Australia. I'm your host, Sarah Mitchell, and today we're launching a riveting mini-series that looks into how a second Trump term could reshape international relations, particularly between the United States and Australia. So, why should Australians care about a second Trump term? Well, it all boils down to potential changes in key agreements like the AUKUS Pact. But first, let's dive into our first segment titled Trump's Australia, Why a U.S. President Matters Here. To set the stage, let's unpack Trump's America First foreign policy. What does America First actually mean? Essentially, it refers to prioritizing American interests over international alliances. Under this policy, we saw the United States withdraw from significant global agreements like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, aimed at fostering trade among nations, and the Paris Agreement on climate change. Now, how does that affect Australia? Well, it means Australia found itself navigating a complex relationship, essentially deciding whether to go along with Trump's isolationist approach or to pursue its own international interests. And believe me, this isn't merely politics. It's about the future of the Australia-United States alliance, which has historical roots dating back to World War II. Let's also introduce some key players in this saga. Prime Ministers Scott Morrison, Anthony Albanese, and Malcolm Turnbull, alongside other significant voices we might call the AusMin Chorus. This term refers to senior officials from both Australia and the US who regularly meet to discuss defense and security issues, especially during Trump's presidency. They would often express opinions reflecting their views on Trump's character and policies. Perhaps they would tell us a little something like, "He will never stop being Trump." Now let's shift gears to our second segment, titled AUKUS under Trump, Deal or Danger. If you haven't heard, AUKUS stands for the Australia-United Kingdom-United States Partnership, established in 2021, primarily focusing on military and security cooperation. It's a significant agreement granted access to Australia for nuclear-powered submarines, thus intensifying military capabilities. So what's the catch here? While AUKUS promises to bolster Australian defense, there's growing concern about the transactional nature of this pact, especially under Trump's likely second term. Imagine a thought bubble showing Trump liking the UK and Australia, but perceiving AUKUS merely as another commercial transaction. This raises questions. Will Australia have to bear greater costs? Will autonomy in decision-making diminish as the U.S. pressures its allies? This poses a dilemma. Integrating U.S. military technology might strengthen Australia's defenses, yet could lead to dependency and a compromised strategic posture in the Asia-Pacific region, particularly regarding our relationship with China. Can AUKUS be both a protective shield against threats and a potential trap? It's crucial we unpack this reality. Now, let's get personal in segment 3 titled Trump, Albanese, and Bad Chemistry. On one end, we have Trump, who thrives on connection with leaders he deems winners, like Scott Morrison. On the other, we have Anthony Albanese, whose public denouncement of Trump's actions on January 6th definitely didn't establish a warm space for camaraderie. But does chemistry matter at the leader level? Well, let's dissect this. While Trump embraced Morrison, calling him a great win, thus enjoying a celebratory moment with a state dinner, Albanese's differing political stance could cause friction, complicating the close alliance Australia has with the U.S. In international relations, this chemistry often translates into how well leaders can work together to face global challenges. Even if the chemistry appears hostile, we must remember that alliances can thrive through shared defense, intelligence, and management strategies, rather than just leader-level warmth. Hence, it becomes imperative for these connections to be professional and focused on mutual interests. Now on to our final segment for today, Trumpism at home, race, media, and the Australian right. We will explore how the rhetoric of Trump has filtered into the fabric of Australian political discourse. In the US, we saw terms like enemy of the people and white grievance dominate political dialogues. However, how far has this language traveled across the Pacific? Here in Australia, political figures like Pauline Hanson have voiced similar sentiments, emphasizing it's okay to be white. Such statements mirror Trumpist rhetoric, perpetuating division and prompting significant debates about equality and representation. What's more, The media plays a vital role in shaping these narratives. Let's discuss the implications of Murdoch's control over Australian media, particularly with outlets like Sky News, propagation of Trump-adjacent narratives, despite a relatively smaller audience compared to major networks. With this media influence, should Australia be concerned? Advocates for Indigenous rights are arguing for constitutional recognition and a voice to Parliament, suggesting that we should proactively imagine a future where these rights are embedded in our democratic practices. In summation, as we look at Australia's response to potential Trumpism 2.0, it becomes clearer that understanding the interconnectedness of race, media, and right-wing movements is crucial in fortifying our democratic institutions. So how do we build resilience against these imported ideologies? This is where the Uluru Statement from the Heart comes into play, highlighting not only the call for a constitutionally enshrined voice for First Nations people, but advocating for cultural reform, truth-telling, and recognition. As we wrap up today's episode of Trans-Pacific Dialogue, let's leave our listeners with this question. What kind of democracy do we aspire to have in a world influenced by Trump-shaped politics? How can we ensure that Australia embraces inclusivity, safeguarding against potential divisions sown by external influences? Thank you for tuning in. This series is just beginning, and we hope you join us as we explore more about these intricate connections between Australia and the United States in relation to Trumpism, trade, and politics. Until next time.